Hey guys, um, story time again. Hadn't done one in a good while. Uh, I remembered bits and pieces of a day that I, I heard about. It was This was not my story. I believe it was Mama, my grandmother. I do believe. If Don't hold me to that, I'm not sure. Um, they when she was she was still kind of young. She was probably about in her 30s or so, or something like that, 20s or 30s. And her and Papa and my mom and everybody moved out to Fife, Alabama, about an hour from here. And they rented this old house. Papa kind of made a deal uh, with a fella working in a chicken house that would pay for some of his, boarding because they had, my mom had 5 children. You know, he had to do what he had to do to make it. You know, uh, Mama, I just can't remember if it was Mama or maybe Mama. I can't remember who it was. One or the other. Not long there, they moved in and everything. Uh, they were coming from town or something, and shoot, I wish I could remember if it was Mama or Mama. I'm gonna have to say Mama. Yeah. Well, anyway, they come back from town to get some groceries and whatnot. Uh, she was the last one coming in, and she noticed a woman around the side of the house there next to the porch was fooling with the flowers out there. And she walked around there and asked that woman, what's your name? What are you doing? And she said something about, I'm planting these flowers and I don't know why they ain't, budding like they're supposed to, or something. I can't remember some which way about that. Something about a flower. Anyway, she said, You planted these flowers? I said, yeah, sure did. Said we loved them. And I guess back then it was just the norm, you know. They will show up. And it was probably back in mm, early 50s, I guess. And she went on in the house, took her sack of groceries in there. She asked Papa, but that's her daddy, uh, said, Papa said, who's that lady around there? Said she planted them flowers and they ain't putting out like they supposed to. He said, huh? He said, I ain't never heard no or seen no woman out there. She said, yeah, come out here and talk to her. She said I think she told Papa, I think she might be, you know. And they walked out there and she wasn't there. And it was kind of like it was just kind of meant for Mama uh, for a period of time. Seemed like every time they'd come back from town or just anything, uh, Mama seen her one time walking down by the woodshed down there. And she asked Mama and Papa, did they see her walking down through there? They said, no. She said, well, I must be going crazy. And she said, I know what I saw. She said, I know who I talked to. She said, did you get a name? She said, no, I didn't actually get a name. She just told me that day, said that she planted them flowers. They told her, so next time you see her, just ask what's her name. And she did. She was fooling around in the backyard one day, and that old lady come walking up through the field up through there. And she asked her, she said, can I ask what your name is? She said, sure. Her name was Margie. And she asked her how did she, when did she remember planting them flowers and things like that. And she said, me and my husband used to get out and, put out flowers and things every year. And she said, so y'all lived here in this house? She said, no, this house wasn't here when we lived here. She said, well, it's been here a good while. She said, not that long. So anyway, she went back in the house and she talked to Papa and Mama about it later in the evening and told them that she said her name was Margie. And she said that her and her husband planted them flowers. They'd do that every spring. And she said, I asked, did she used to live in this house? And she said, no, this house wasn't here when she lived here. And he said, well, this old house here is over 100 years old. He said, how could she have not lived here? So I guess it all stirred on their mind real good. And anyway, finally she was outside doing something. I think at the time Papa might have been chopping wood or something. I don't know. But she just headed around back, and she seen that old woman standing there at the edge of the field, and she walked down there and talked to her a minute, and she asked her, what are you, what are you looking at? She said, I'm looking at my babies. She said, don't you see them? Mama looked back toward the house. She said, no, I don't see them. She said, they're not around the house now. Mama said, well, where are they? She said, you not just see them just float up in the air? Mama said, no, I didn't see nothing like that. She said, well, how come you can see me? She said, I can't explain that one either. It kind of scared Mama a little bit. She asked her, she said, may I ask how old you are? Margie. Miss Margie, what they said back then. She said, if I would have made it, I'd have been 132 years of age. Mom said, if you would have made it? She said, yeah. She said, I just was too weak, I guess, during my pregnancy. And I guess Mama kind of put two and two together. And she said, "Why do you come here?" You know, she said, "This is where my best memories was." She said, "Are you not with your children?" And she said, "Oh, yeah." She said, "But I come here and watch them leave this earth every day." Mama said, "Why would you want to have to relive that?" She said, "Well," she said, "I died right out there. Was making a flower bed, and apparently I had a heart attack." She said, "Last thing I remembered was us doing that, planting them flowers." And she said, "It brings me comfort." She said, "Yeah, but what about seeing your children?" She said, "How old was they?" She said, "Oh, one was, I can't remember now how old. Another little boy was 15, 16, something. I can't remember now. But anyway, she said they died of the typhus, whatever that was, some kind of something go around, kind of like a cold or flu, typhus, whatever that, like I said, whatever that is. And she said, "But this here brings you comfort?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Always being around family, even in death, is enjoyable." She said, "May I ask you, how does it feel?" And she said, "Well, I can tell you that when you pass," she said, "you get to see all the bad and all the good you've ever done." She said, "It's like a little clicking sound." She said she felt just a sharp pain in her chest. Next thing she knew, everything went black for a while. She said, "Well, who was the first person you seen?" She said, "My mama." She said, That's incredible." That woman said, "You're seeing me for a reason." She said, "Well, what's the reason?" Mama kind of jittered a little bit, you know. She said, "I don't know." She said, "I have no idea." She said, "I've been doing this for going on nearly 90 years." She said, "I have no idea." She said, "Y'all haven't lived here very long." She said, "No, just a few months." She told that Papa, worked in the chicken houses and all to pay for the room and board. And she asked, she said, uh, where's your family?" And she said, "Back there in the field, back yonder." She said, "Is that from where you was walking from and when you was coming up through here?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Can you take me and let me see it?" She said, "Yeah." And they walked good ways out in the field and crossed a little old shallow creek down there. Up on this low hill there was three graves. Her two kids and her husband. And he lived to be 80 something years old, she said. And Mama was pretty much just in shock of being able to see and hear this. And she said, "Well, I guess I better get back to the house." And she said, I turned around to tell Margie thank you for, talking with me, and said she was no longer there. So she come on back to the house and told Papa and Mama what happened. And Papa said he remembered a man that was apparently that her husband's daddy back in them days. And he said, I never knowed they lived around here. She said, apparently this house is sitting where they lived, or it's just been remodeled or something. And said something about one day she was going out to get in the car and seen that woman, Margie, standing at the edge of the yard over there. Said she hollered out, Imogene. That was Mama's name, Imogene. Edna Imogene. And she said, yeah. Looked around, and she seen that woman waving at her. And Mama said she's never seen her since. That just goes to show you that you take your love with you, your memories, everything that you've ever done bad, even the bad thoughts that you've ever had. You'll feel every one of them. All the goodness you've done, you'll feel it. I pray good Lord and save my soul, because I've done a lot of bad in my time, and I'm not proud of it. But Mama says she never was really creeped out about Margie, except for when it kind of got started off. She said after she talked to her a little while, it's like nothing else. Now, something I was watching or something made me think of that. Next time I'm around there, I'll show y'all where that old house still sits today. Me and Larry, that was the last job me and Larry ever did together. We put metal roofing on that house. Anyway, that was awesome. And people in spirit, that they can really do more than we can. They can definitely let you know things before the living will. A lot quicker sometimes. But now, don't get me wrong. I don't remember if it was Mama or Mama, but I knew about how to say it was Mama. And Mama, I mean my grandmother. I call Mother Mother, and Mama Mama. My grandmama, my grandma Mama, the plus tags. So anyway, I wanted to share that story with you guys, that let you know that death is just the beginning. It's not an end of nothing, except for this old terrible world here. No matter who you are, where you are, you've always got a loved one watching you somewhere. And no matter who you are or where you are, at different points you will feel, and even the back of your mind will remind you of certain times in your life where you've had that split second feeling somebody was watching you. That's because they loved you enough to make sure that they keep an eye on us, be here with us. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. Thanks for listening to my story. Love every one of you.